Do you feel like your sound system is missing something? Maybe a little bit of that low-end bass. Maybe you've installed a new head unit lately, maybe some new speakers, and you just need a little bit more oomph out of your system. We have just the solution for you. Hey guys and gals, Mike here with Trail 7, and I would like to introduce you to Kicker's first compact powered subwoofers and award winners for design and engineering. They're 8-inch and 10-inch Hideaway powered subs, which we're going to install the 10-inch today in our Jeep JK. We're going to show you how easy this is to install, our plug-and-play system, and how slick it fits in the JK right underneath the passenger seat. So first, let's tell you a little bit about each one. So this is the 8-inch Hideaway. This is 150 watt power. This is just over 3 inches tall and just about 14 inches long. The 10-inch powered sub is 180 watts, and this is only 2 millimeters taller, so barely larger than the 8-inch. They both fit nice and snug underneath the passenger seat. So without further ado, let's show you how easy this is to install Trail 7's plug-and-play Kicker Hideaway sub underneath the passenger seat. Let's get it on. All right, so let's give a little bit of a walkthrough of what's going to be needed. Of course, we have our Kicker 10-inch Hideaway sub. This comes with the bass volume bass boost module, which we'll show you how to install. The cable for that. This comes with the battery harness, which we have attached the connectors for you. This also comes with the wiring harness. So in the wiring harness from Kicker and the ones from Trail 7 that we combined for you, we solder, we connectorize, and we pre-wire everything so that when you receive it, it's plug and play, ready to go. You'll need that, of course. The 2 drywall screws that we'll provide for you. I'll show you what those are needed for in a little bit. A trim piece pry bar, 7 millimeter to remove the dash panel because we need to take the head unit out. A T27 because there's a little plate underneath the seat which we'll remove with this. Some wire snips. And some tape, which we'll need to attach to the fish tape here. Get a little piece of metal, a coat hanger, a wire. If you have a fish tape, great. And a piece of tape so that way you can attach it to it to get the cable through. We'll show you that in a minute too. So let's go ahead and get started with the head unit removal first, which I'm going to take the dash apart. I'm going to get started on that now. All right guys, so here we are inside the Jeep, and we're going to switch over to some previous footage of this whole dash disassembly right here. And that starts with removal of this lower dash panel. So it's one piece under here, and if you put your fingers right underneath the steering column, you can just pull straight at you and lower all the way down and slide it out towards you. Go ahead and set this piece aside. Behind the panel, there are 2 screws that you need to remove. One is here and one is here. With a 9/32 socket wrench, we're going to go ahead and remove those. Remove the other one. Hey, recommendation on all of these screws that you take out from your dash, go ahead and drop them in your cup holder. We're of course going to need those for reassembly. There's one more on the dashboard here. There's a total of 4 of these screws, 2 under the dash, 1 up on top here, and there's 1 behind the window switches. Recommend a panel remover right underneath the window switch panel. It pops right out. Behind here, it's a 2-way lock. Push that up, lock that down, and it'll pull right out. After you disconnect that, go ahead and store that in the cup holder. And then there you'll find the 4th screw to uninstall. After that's out, you're ready to remove the full dash panel. recommend go ahead and lowering your steering wheel all the way down. Makes it a lot easier to navigate around. And you can reach up on the left side behind the speaker lever and right up front here, and you'll see it pulls right out. And there's no need to disconnect the air vents. And store that in the back seat as well. Now that we have the dash apart, you'll see there are 4 screws surrounding the stock head unit. Once you have the screws out, to get this out, just pull it straight out at you. A little bit of wiggling, and it'll come right out. All right, everybody, so the head unit has now been removed. And just so you know that this install is only applicable for an aftermarket head unit. This Hideaway sub can work for a stock Jeep head unit. However, this install is only going to cover the aftermarket. So first we're going to go ahead and prep the passenger seat. There's a metal bracket that's underneath here that's going to be in the way of the sub sliding underneath. I don't know if all Jeeps have this bracket. This specific Jeep has heated seats, and that bracket holds the wire harness. So if you don't have heated seats, you may not have the bracket. Just take a peek underneath there. If you have the bracket, remove it, okay? So we're gonna show you how to do that. It's very easy. You need your T27 Torx bit and also wire snips, because the wire is zip tied to the top of that plate. All right, so let's go ahead and get this bracket removed. First, there's the wire harness is clipped on top here. It's snapped in. Let's go ahead and push it back forward to remove it. There is a single zip tie holding in the wire. Go ahead and cut the zip tie, not the wire, just to be clear on that. We are cutting the zip tie that's holding the wire, not the wire. Now we have these 2 T27 screws holding the bracket into the side rail of the passenger seat. Let's go ahead and remove these 2 T27 screws. Get the bracket out of here. And there we go. The passenger seat is now prepped for the sub install. That is all that you need to do, is to remove this bracket. Now I'm going to take the screws, I'm going to screw them back into the slots just in case they're needed for something else later on, if you want to put that bracket back in. One thing additionally you want to do is, now that that wire is hanging down, let's go ahead and take a zip tie and zip tie it to the top of the seat. And that is it. Next, we're going to slide this seat forward so we can access the back and slide the sub underneath it. All right, now that the seat is moved forward, let's go ahead and just do a quick little prep of the sub. So flip it on over and attach the provided Velcro strips. You know, install one across the front here and one across the back. It's not necessary to mount the sub in any way. This Velcro is plenty enough to stop it from moving back and forth. And it definitely has enough weight to where it's not going anywhere. And there you go. Now the sub is prepped. Let's go ahead and put it underneath the passenger seat. All right, here we go. As you can see, this guy is just going to slide right underneath here, just like so. It's going to sit right down, and just go ahead and press it down. And as you can tell, moving it side to side, it's not going anywhere. Front to back, it's not going anywhere. It's in there great. Now it's time to connect the wires and keep on moving. All right, now that the sub is in place, I mean, first of all, this thing is super cool, right? Slides right underneath the passenger seat. The front of the sub is very accessible to connect all of the wires, which we're going to do here in a second, make all of the adjustments. I mean, this thing it's perfect fit. So let's go ahead and get started with the wiring harness. Here at Trail 7, we will provide the, as I said, pre-wired, pre-soldered, connectorized harness, which just really makes this plug and play. So what we're going to do is connect the wire harness to the sub. I'm going to remove the glove box so I can show you where to route the wiring up to the glove box. You do need to remove the side panel here so you can access the port or the hole that's going to run the power. We're going to remove this floor mat so you can pull the carpet back to hide all of the wires running from the front of the sub up to the back of the glove box here, and as well as running the ground wire along the carpeting this side to attach to the main ground that's on the side panel inside here. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Let's go ahead and get our floor mat out of here. Go ahead and remove the trim panel piece here. Just use the panel remover to pry up on top. Pull the clips out, and this panel comes right out. We're also going to remove the glove box. To remove the glove box, lower it, squeeze on both sides like so. Lower it all the way, and it comes right out. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this carpet back too. That'll help to bury the wire. Good thing about our Jeeps is the carpet was pretty much meant to come out. That's good for that side. We'll end up having to pull this carpet up on this side also for the ground wire, but we'll get to that. We're ready to go ahead and feed the wire harness through. What I find it easier is to go in through the glove box, take the main head of the wire harness, go ahead and couple up the remote base control knob wire, couple those up together, and you're going to go in through top here. You're going to go ahead and stick the wires, feed the wires right down here, and they will really just drop right down. Now there is a slot over to the side of the seat here that we want to navigate the other end of the cables through. Push the wires through right here. They can drop right down, and go ahead and grab the remote base wire as well. Now what you can do is just lift the front of the sub up and plug in the main harness and plug in the remote base wire to the remote base wire port. You can bring the ground wire all the way through here, because we're going to route it up along the side there to that ground bolt. We can push the carpet back into place, which will then hide all of our cabling. We can tuck up underneath here. All right, now our wires are pulled through. We're going to go ahead and install the power wire to the battery. We've removed the side panel here earlier, and you'll be able to see the spot in the fire stop that we're going to push through. That'll get us into the engine compartment. All right, now that our hood is up, we're going to go ahead and use our fish tape, wire hanger, whatever you can use, whatever you can find, to go ahead and penetrate through the fire stop to get into the engine compartment. So let's go ahead. And push that through. Now we're going to take our power wire and tape it to the end of the wire rod there. And we're going to go ahead and push this guy through. All right, so we're going to go ahead and keep pulling the wire fish through. And there we go. We have our wire. We can go ahead and ditch our fish. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab the pre-connectorized little harness here. We're going to connect both of these on for you. This eye is going to go on your positive. So you get a 10 millimeter socket. Loosen up the battery terminal. We're going to attach this onto the battery terminal. And then we're going to connect the wire the power wire that you pulled through. We're going to connect that with the main wire from the battery. And this will be attached for you. These will be attached for you. Just plug it right in. You may want to throw a little piece of tape over that also. And what we can do, mind the mess of our previous projects. You have something coming up here that will probably eliminate all of that. Go ahead and take a zip tie, attach right to the side there. And snip it. And your your power is connected. All right, now that we have the power ran, we're gonna go ahead, we leave the slack here. We'll clean all that up when we do all of the cable management. These are the wires that you pulled through earlier. Let's go ahead and leave those for a second. We'll do with one wire, one connection at a time. As I said earlier, this installation guide is specific for an aftermarket head unit, and I'm going to show you why. Stock head unit isn't going to have the RCAs and isn't going to have the remote amp on wire that we need to tap into. So let's grab the remote amp wire first. This is the blue wire that comes from the main harness. We have installed the male bullet connector on here. We're going to provide you with the female bullet connector. This is the only part of the entire build that you'll need to splice and terminate on your own. There's just no way for us to terminate this to your head unit, right? So this head unit here, it already has one connected to it, but what I've shown, what I have here in my hand is a good example of a pretty typical aftermarket head unit harness. It has on here a blue wire, and it even says amp turn on. So ultimately, that's what you're going to connect this blue wire to, the amp turn on wire in your head unit. In this case here, we're using one of our Sony 9500 bundles, and it looks just like this. But as mentioned, it's already done. You're going to go ahead and run this wire up the glove box here. Plenty of open cavity space behind here. I'm just reaching my hand behind here with the wire, taking this hand straight down into there, and I can touch hand to hand. I can hand off the wire, and I can pull it right through. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and plug the male bullet connector into the female bullet connector that you've attached to your head unit, just like so. And you probably want to put a little piece of tape around that also. All right, just like so. Next, we're going to take the next batch of cables, which has been, this has been soldered by us here at Trail 7. We've connected the RCAs on the midpoint, which is the Y adapter. And we're going to run the Y adapter up that same slot to come out the same spot here to plug into the head unit RCAs. So same thing with this. Go ahead and feel for the spot in the back. Take your left hand, reach right down in there. I can touch finger to finger. I'm going to hand the wire off, and that's it. And I don't need to pull all of it out. The rest I'm going to cable manage and zip tie into the glove box cavity here. I'm going to take this, I'm going to plug this into my sub-out RCA. Some head units have the RCAs built into the head unit. The 9500 has an external RCA harness that's attached to the head unit. On the 9500, we actually have two sub-outs. On our 4000 and 6000, there's only one. So I'm going to show you how to do this using one, which would be the splitter that we provide. Attach it to the sub-out, and that's it. And again, here, you may want to go ahead and just put a little piece of tape. These RCAs can be easily unplugged. So I'd go ahead and put a little piece of tape to hold these two RCA connections together. All right, so as far as the wiring and the connections, that part is done. Next wire we have here is for the remote base control. That's the last wire. This is going to follow the same routing, but what this is going to do is this is going to come up through here, and this is going to go down the other side, and it's going to fish down to the other side of the console and drop down by the foot panel. So we can pull that through. We can go underneath or through, or whichever way is easiest to get from one side to the other. We're going to go ahead and pull that through, pull through enough so that way it has enough to reach down and drop down into the footwell of the driver's side here. And that should be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that for now. Let's go ahead and manage this wires here. I'm just going to wrap them up, and I'm going to zip tie them. and I'm gonna find a bar back here to zip tie to. So I've got it all bundled up here. I'm gonna slide it around and I'm gonna hold it down to the bottom here to where I can zip tie to the bottom of this this metal bracket here. Just want to make sure that the wires are not going to be in the way of the glove box closing. Make sure the zip tie is not going to be in the way of the glove box closing. That's plenty of room there. Go ahead and snip off our end. Make sure not to snip a wire. And there you go. Now let's go ahead and pull the slack power wire through. And do the same thing. All right, I'm gonna zip tie this to a cozy little spot down here. And cut off the end of our zip tie, not the wires. Tuck that down, and you're good to go. Let's go ahead and put our glove box back into place. This connects down below. Pinch the top, push it in. You can also reattach our side panel over here. That just snaps right in. And there we go. That part's all done. Let's go ahead and move over to the driver's side so I can hook up the remote base power. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and run the wire down to the remote base controller, which we're gonna install down below the knee panel here in the driver's side. This is meant to be a bottom mount. So it has screws, holes that are on the bottom there, meant to mount like that. The best place that I found was here. However, you can mount this thing anywhere it fits best for you, anywhere that you see fit that, you know, it's your Jeep, you can mount it wherever you want to. But what we found is best here is when you're driving, it's down by the knee, you can adjust your base, which I'll show you all that here in a little bit. So what you're gonna need is the fish tape again, or coat hanger. You go ahead and stick that all the way through and pull it. We can attach the end. And go ahead and pull that through. All right, go ahead and remove that from your fish tape. We don't need our fish tape anymore. The kit comes with a couple of screws. But what we found best is to use these little inch and a half pointed drywall screws. They go right into the plastic. There's nothing behind there for it to damage, and these are perfect length, perfect size. So we'll provide 2 of these with each one of the kits. Find the spot that works out best for you. What I do is I use the tip of the screw head and I put it in the slot in order to put a little scratch mark in the dash. And these come as little slots where you can screw the screw head in, or you can screw the screw into the dash, and you can slide this over the head. Go ahead and connect the wire connector into the controller and slide it over the screws. Now I'd go ahead and pull the slack wire up. Just leave it tucked back inside the dash here. And you can tuck the wire up underneath the dashboard here. Just find a spot that it's gonna be suitable for you. All right, so the base control knob is installed. The power is installed. The amp on is installed. The RCAs are installed. Everything is connected all the way through, except for a ground. Let's go ahead and connect the ground, button everything up, and we're ready to hear what this thing sounds like soon. All right, we're ready to go ahead and install to land the ground wire. So there is a main ground nut on the factory body up inside here. Grab your 10mm socket. Going to remove that. All right, we're going to go ahead and pop this trim piece off of here, this little plastic button with our trim removal piece. I'm going to put that aside. It'll help to get underneath here so you can run the ground wire back behind it underneath here. You can use your trim piece tool to just push that underneath the trim there. Let's go ahead and screw this onto the ground nut there. And you can tuck the remaining ground wire back behind there. And don't forget to put your trim piece back in. Ground is in, power's in, panels together, glove is in, RCAs are connected, your amp on is connected, your boost control is connected, your main harness is connected to your sub. I'll show you in a minute the adjustments and the dials that we found that worked out best. Some of the adjustments like the phase and the input are really up to your ear and what's going to work out best for you, but we can give you what our recommended values are. Let me go ahead and put the head unit back together. This is just a matter of sliding it back in. It's just doing backwards what you've already done, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get that, and we'll be back in with you in a second. All right, everybody, we are fully buttoned up here. Our 10-inch kicker powered sub is installed underneath the passenger seat, and now it's just ready to listen to it. So let's go. You know, let me tell you what, just noticing the difference between this Jeep here is factory amplified, so it already has a sub in the back, and this sub overpowers that sub night and day. You cannot hear anything coming from the factory sub. In fact, with the dial here, we can turn the dial all the way down on the kicker sub, turn the volume back up. And I mean, it just sounds like all, you know, high, mids and highs once you hear what that sub does. Again, being able to turn the dial on the fly. Huge difference. All right, everybody, so the kicker sub here, this is good for any Jeep model, 2007 to 2014 or 15 to 18, whether you are factory amplified, non-factory amplified, it doesn't matter, right? If you are factory amplified, don't be afraid of this. This is absolutely going to make a huge impact and huge difference in your sound and your bass, of course. And if you're non-factory amplified, without a bass, without a sub, this is a huge upgrade. So really glad we were able to put this together. We made it plug and play, as said, and really happy that I believe that this came out well. So if you're interested in picking up a kicker 8-inch or 10-inch powered subwoofer, please visit us at www.trail7.com. And until then, we'll see you on the trails.